All right, y'all, I'm back for part 2 of Experience is the New Currency. I'm going ahead and getting part 2 of this video done because this has been sitting on my heart. And I realized it was sitting on my heart so much so that I didn't put any earrings in. I hadn't put any earrings on. And yeah, I just needed to get it out. All right. Part 1 is already out. If you haven't watched that, go watch that first. Experience is the New Currency, part 1. And then come back to this video because I just wanted to get a little bit deeper into it. And kind of talk about these dimensions or why this is so important right now. But I wanted to start off just kind of reflecting as what I was doing right before this video, reflecting on my experience in the animal health industry and the veterinary industry and how that completely shaped my perception on what people were willing to pay for. Especially when it came to their pets, these things that they're choosing to have, because having a pet is a luxury. And being a horsewoman, you know, not only do I have dogs, but I also have horses. And so the spectrum of pets are a luxury is quite large in my life, but it's absolutely what I'm, you know, dedicated to and the choices that I make over and over. And working in that industry, I was able to really see, I mean, that's truly what changed the game for the practice that I worked for when I was eventually tasked with growing the struggling pet resort. And, you know, oftentimes when I kind of tell that story, I talk about building a brand. We built the brand around it being like a camp. And, you know, your dogs go to camp. Okay, what else comes with camp? We get report cards. We get all these different goodies, you know, all these different things. But what was truly the difference, you know, being in a location where it's very much affluent, the average income was pretty high. We had to do more than just provide a quality service, because when, you know, you've got an animal hospital in every half mile, we had to be able to provide a service that was more than just, is your pet healthy or not? You know, it had to be branded. It had to be designed to have this meaning. We had to connect it and ground ourselves and like insert ourselves into people's lives so that they would not want to go without us for too long, you know? And that was, you know, when we're thinking about, you know, increasing average order values and lifetime value of the client, you know, we had to come up with things, come up with services, products, different offers and upgrades and, you know, changes to the experience to ensure that the client was getting the experience that we wanted, but we also were hitting the goals that we wanted to hit. And so, you know, I take those same thoughts into my approach when working with my clients now, whether I'm doing like a leadership development experience or facilitating strategic planning or doing brand strategy. We are asking ourselves, who are we? And you know, that's really where that brand strategy comes into play. Who are we? And what decisions do we have to make to make sure that how we operate aligns with how we want people to experience us. That's what I've been saying over and over in these videos, because it's just so true. It's so true that I feel like in the business landscape right now, alignment is that advantage. That the alignment of those three things is the thing that is going to push people past their competitors. Because a lot of people are always looking outward facing, and they seldom oscillate their attention from, okay, what's going on out there? Okay, what's going on in here? What's going on inside? What's going on internally that's impacting the delivery of what we're promising? I didn't introduce myself in the last video either. That's how excited I was. But let me just, if you have watched Experience is the New Economy, I mean, not New Economy, New Currency Part 1, and you're coming to Part 2, and you don't know who I am, please let me just say, my name is Abriana. I am the founder and principal consultant at Black Unicorn Creative, and that is our work, aligning who you are, how you operate, and how people experience you. We do that through facilitation, through brand strategy, through leadership development, really making sure that brand is we have a brand as business approach, management style. And I believe that your brand is not just forward facing or client facing. It should absolutely be woven into the internal workings of your business and influence your internal decision making. So I feel like taking that experience from my last big job, or the last time I was employed by someone else and not self-employed, I ask myself and I ask my clients, what is it that we are not designing for that is actually making the difference? I feel like people are paying for, yes, they're paying for a product or service, but, excuse me, oftentimes there is someone else providing it. There is someone else providing that same product or service. And I like listening to this guy, Jay Acunzo, because he works with professionals on developing their signature talks. And I do a lot of speaking. So I really like following his methodology on, what does he say? Not saying more, but saying what matters. But one of the things that he says is that you don't have to be the best. You simply have to be their favorite. I might be paraphrasing, but that's the sentiment, right? Yes, you should strive to be the best, but there is someone who has more resources, more capacity, more capital to be the best, but they are not their favorite. They are not the consumer's favorite. Yes, they might deliver, but they don't deliver well. They don't deliver in a way that makes the client feel good about their experience. And so when we look at, how are we retaining our customers? How are we taking them through the customer journey from awareness to retention and becoming their favorite? Doing the best that we have the resources to do, absolutely. But looking around the marketplace and saying, okay, despite everything, why would they choose me? Why would they choose our business over someone else? I was talking to a client who has a brick and mortar retail store gifting shop. Why would someone come in here and choose these, you know, these very curated and specifically, it had an aura, right? It had a vibe. The store had a very particular vibe. Why would someone come in here to buy a gift versus going to Etsy, going to Walmart, and purchasing something similar? Not quite there, maybe not the best, but similar, right? What is going to get people in this door specifically? And so that's what I keep coming back to. It is the, like, making that certainty and the consistency and that emotional resonance and that differentiation, making those things the levers or the levers of that experience design and how you are bringing that to the forefront. I feel like people want to be, like I said in the last video, people want to be confident that what they are purchasing is what they're going to get. But they also want to be amazed. They also want to be inspired. They want to be provoked. They want to be certain that you are going to deliver on whatever promise that you're making. If you're saying you're going to have these hard to acquire gifts or gifts with a certain vibe, or, you know, you offer something that people cannot just get online easily, then okay, that is a way to be their favorite, because someone who values you know, quirky and hard to acquire gifts because they know that makes people in their lives feel special, that is a reason why they would come to you. And so how can we use our messaging to contribute to the painting of that picture, to make that the expectation, so that they know that when they come in, they are certain that that is what they are going to get. I was talking to a friend recently about how, you know, as we segment our audiences and try to understand the buying behaviors, the demographic data is not enough. I mean, and that's not new information, but when we're thinking about the psychographics, when we're thinking about mentally what's influencing people's decision to buy, you know, it's more, the questions are more around what is their motivation to buy. What are their current needs, and what behaviors are associated with those needs? How do we paint a picture of a behavior, or a set of values? How are their values influencing how they buy? And building your, you know, we talk about building our ideal client, building it from that place versus like single mom, you know, 2 kids, working XYZ, or if we're talking like B2C, like mom and pop, rural area, 2-3 employees. Like, okay, cool. What is their motivation? What are their current needs? What behaviors are they exhibiting around those needs? And what are their values? How does that influence how they purchase? Because once you get a little bit more clear about that, you can deliver an experience that will make them confident in their purchase and will continue to reassure them along the way. Also, we oftentimes love this word consistency. I won't even say love. I would say overuse. I'll say overuse this word consistency. Sometimes when you hear people use a word multiple times in a specific context, but because they do that, it feels like the meaning changes a little bit. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about here. Because sometimes people feel like consistency means constant. And that's not true. Consistency means like some upward frequency, increased frequency. And that's not true. That's not true. Consistency when it comes to experience means that people want that the experience that they have to match the promise that you made. And that's why I think it's so intentional to develop a brand promise that you can deliver on. Because that is the expectation, that it'll be consistent. The goal is to over deliver. The goal is to have an experience that inspires more confidence in your business. But if the promise that you are making is not something that you can deliver on, then the consistency expectation is not something that you should, it has to be designed. It's not something that you should let happen to you, right? Or that you don't factor in when you're making decisions. When we're looking at consistency versus constancy, it doesn't mean that you have to show up in every aspect of their lives. It doesn't mean that you have to overproduce. It doesn't mean that you have to insert yourself a lot. It means that you show up when it matters. And they can guarantee that when it matters, when they have that need or that motivation or their values are being exercised, that you'll be there then. Not that you have to be there all the time, but you will be there when the need is there. That's the consistency that people are looking for. And that consistency provides a feeling. I mean, think about a time when you were promised something. Think about a time when you were a kid and you were promised something. And say the adult in your life was like, we can't do that. Or I changed my mind. Or that's not going to work anymore, without really providing an alternative, right? That feeling of disappointment, of shame, of guilt, of, a lot of different feelings. I mean, a whole range of feelings could come from that, but being that disappointed, is not something that feels good. It's not, especially if you were really excited about whatever that thing was, whatever that promise was. Because that's what a promise is, right? It's something that inspires hope and excitement. But if you're disappointed in that regard, then that is not a feeling that we want to have within our business. That is not something that we want to make commonplace for our customers. So what do you want people to feel? When I'm working with my clients and we're going through how they are building their brand and how it's influencing their business, we are looking at the customer journey and saying, okay, what is the feeling? If overall the feeling that's supposed to be associated with the brand is this, how do we translate that into the different touch points, into the different interactions that we have with our clients? And if that feeling isn't there, why not? Why can we not translate that into the behaviors of the business? And how can we think creatively about doing that? People want to feel something. They want to be provoked. You know? That's what I was saying in part one. It's not that they're going to remember everything. They're not going to remember every detail. They're not going to remember every conversation, but they will remember a feeling. My best friend is, I call her the elephant because she remembers everything. And she'll ask, we've been best friends since college. She'll ask me about someone, or, oh, you remember somebody? You remember this person? And most of the times I'm like, no, I don't remember anything about that person, Mrs. Elephant. But what I do know, I have a feeling around it. I feel like I was excited to see that person, you know, tell me more about the situation or whatever. Or I feel like, I didn't really enjoy being around that person. That's when you say their name, that's what I remember of them. And oftentimes that is exactly how consumers operate. If they cannot remember every detail of your interaction, of their interaction with your business, they remember the feeling that they have when they either encountered it or left it. Oftentimes when they left it. When I'm facilitating with business leaders now, I am trying to pick up on that feeling. I'm trying to pick up on the how the work that we are doing resonates with my clients, the people that I'm working with. And sometimes we have to get creative, and sometimes we have to change the plan if things are not landing, or if we're bringing up emotions that need to be moved and need to be worked through and need to be channeled into work that is really productive. Because alignment work, it is good work. It's good work, Savannah, but it's hard. And sometimes it brings up feelings that we have a hard time pushing through if we're not, willing to be vulnerable. My goodness. Oh, I could talk about this forever. I could talk about this forever. And I think in the age of where information is just so easy to get. I mean, my friends know I'm quick to say, did you Google it? And nowadays it's, did you ask, insert AI of choice? Because everything is so accessible. Because information is so accessible nowadays, that is not your differentiator. That cannot be the differentiator that you are leaning or hinging your entire business on. Just the sheer ability to get information. It can't be. Because you can get information from anywhere. It's not enough to be a couple steps ahead of people. We have to be able to say, okay, I can provide you with something that you can't get anywhere else. I can provide you with an experience that is absolutely memorable. I can provide you with support that is absolutely memorable that you cannot get anywhere else. And that was, put in practice what I was able to do, as a technician, as a manager in the pet resort, as someone who is, influencing what agritourism looks like now, and helping farm operators leverage their farm enterprise in different ways. I'm very much, this is industry agnostic, but you have to lean in on your differentiators. How are you distinct? How are you able to offer depth, curation, perspective, intention in a way that is different from the same business down the street. Because like Jay Akonzo says, you have to be their favorite. You want to do your best, but you need to be their favorite if you're not the best in the world, right? And I don't know. I think the more that I think about the future of work and the future of business, what I'm seeing like in the landscape is that we should be designing for experience. We should be designing for memory. We should be designing for connection and the shift or the transformation that we want people to have. I think that it's not enough to simply deliver, or commoditize your business because that feels secure. I don't think it's enough anymore. And so we also need to be preparing our leaders to think creatively as we design these new experiences. So that's where my head is right now. Thank you for watching a part 2 of Experience is the New Currency. I'm just curious to know your thoughts. I've just been noodling on this for a while, and yeah, I'm curious to know how you feel about that and how experience design is showing up for you and your business, and how you're making decisions about what you're investing in, what you're resourcing for, and how you're preparing your teams to do this work. All right. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.